the Browns lose on the road in Seattle against the Seahawks, 24-20. The Seahawks taking this one in another up and down, never a dull moment sort of football game. And, there was a lot of just a cacophony of errors in the final 2 minutes of this one for Cleveland. I'll get into it, but it looked like at first that it might not have even come down to that, as I could not have thought of a worse start for the Browns if I even tried. So they get the ball first. They go 3 and out. Seattle then goes on an easy touchdown drive. Kenneth Walker with a huge run there. Multiple third down conversions for Seattle. Have to get off the field when you can. Offense getting back onto the field for Cleveland. PJ Walker would be strip sacked. That set up another touchdown drive for the Seahawks. Tyler Lockett was always open in this one, at least early on in the game. He was just getting somehow losing the Browns defense multiple times, and it's kind of a blink and you miss it. Browns are down 14-0, and it's still in the first quarter, so the Browns need to get something going. And I will give credit to Kevin Stefanski for this. He drew up a very screen-tastic touchdown drive. Pierre Strong had a good screen reception, and David Njoku had the one that resulted in the touchdown. You would hope that the defense would immediately follow suit, but it wouldn't exactly be the case, as Seattle would get a field goal drive after. But I guess it's better than allowing three straight touchdown drives. So the first quarter ends with Seattle up 17-7. Browns in the second quarter with a little bit of a weird play. They're driving down the field. PJ Walker threw a bad interception intended for an open Njoku, but with the defender on the ground, David Njoku would knock the ball out, and he did pick it up, but it was ruled that it was down. You would have liked to get the ball back there, but the easier way to keep the ball would be to not throw the bad interception in the first place. But the defense forces a 3 and out, and the offense gets to work again. The drive seems to get stopped on a failed fourth down, but a late defensive pass interference is called on the attempt there. The running game with Pierre Strong and Kareem Hunt working out pretty well. Kareem Hunt with a 1-yard touchdown rush to make it 17-14. All of a sudden, this game got competitive just as quickly as it looked like it wasn't going to be competitive. Jerome Ford was expected to miss 1 or 2 games. He was actually active for this one. Didn't get maybe as many touches as he usually gets. Pierre Strong kind of coming in and taking some of his reps early in this one. The Seahawks would get one more chance to score before the first half ended, but Martin Emerson jumps a route for an interception with Seattle in deep field goal range. So the half ends with the Browns down by just 3 points. So to start the second half, the Browns defense seems to be locked in after their rough first quarter. Cleveland would then tie the game on the next drive. PJ Walker settling in nicely as well. A chip shot field goal for Dustin Hopkins to tie it. Some injuries start happening. You have Greg Newsome going out for the game. Alex Wright and DeJuan Jones would go to the locker room. Then a play happens where Zadarius Smith, Martin Emerson, and Grant Delpit all look hurt. And I believe they were all fine. They all returned to the game. But still, it seemed like it was piling all at once in the third quarter for the Browns. But then Mo Hurst would make an incredible play with the game tied in coverage. He dropped back in coverage. He deflected a pass to himself, making a nice catch. A big man interception is always fun. And Mo Hurst has been just a great addition from Andrew Berry, kind of like one of those low-risk contracts on a guy who has been very productive when he was on the field, but he was always hurt. That was the issue with Mo Hurst. But Hurst is healthy so far, and he's been a big part of this Browns defensive line that has been dominant. Just wanted to give a little quick shout out to Mo Hurst, not just for the interception, but for his solid play all this year. He's been a tremendous addition ever since he got to Cleveland in the offseason. But the Browns got into the red zone, but not into the end zone. Another chip shot field goal gave the Browns a 20-17 lead. PJ Walker missing an open Elijah Moore, who could have walked in for a touchdown on that drive. Geno Smith, though, on the other end, he was starting to make some really bad throws. He could have had more interceptions at the end of the day. Could have had I think Mike Ford got his hands on what looked like it could have been a pick six near the end segments of the game. But the Seahawks offense essentially dying in the third quarter as Cleveland takes a 20-17 lead into the fourth quarter with the ball, and they run the ball into the Seahawks territory. Browns offensive line really doing a good job of pushing the pile forward, but the drive just ends up flipping the field. They don't get any points off of it, but the defense, they needed to step up in the fourth quarter, but Seattle's offense also knew that they needed to have a little bit extra spark in their game as well. Charbonnet with a nice run into Cleveland territory, but Myles Garrett got a big third down sack to force a punt. Nice pressure from Ogbo Okoronkwo as well on that play. Ford getting more and more carries in the fourth quarter of this one, but he had another penalty keeping a Cleveland drive alive, going with the clock winding down. It was a hands to the face call, but on a third down pass with a little bit more than 2 minutes left to go, PJ Walker pass deflected way up in the air and picked off on a 3rd and short. The run game was definitely having success. It was a short yardage attempt. I'm not sure why you risk it in the air with PJ Walker, who had already thrown an interception in the game. Either way, the Browns need another stop from their defense. That goes out the window when Noah Fant gets a catch and run into the red zone, but you were hoping that, maybe the Browns defense could just hold them to 3 points and they could play for overtime. That also goes out the window when Jackson Smith-Njigba takes a bubble pass to the house, former Buckeye, making plays in the NFL. Seahawks taking the lead with 38 seconds left. The final Browns drive goes essentially nowhere. I believe it's 4 completions and some negative yardage in there. Seattle takes the game 24-20. I think this is what happens, and it's what's bound to happen when you need game-winning drives over and over and over consistently week after week after week, especially when you're playing PJ Walker, who, well, again, I don't hate PJ Walker. I admire the tenacity that he's shown. You definitely need a lot of heart and will to be a Browns quarterback and put up with it, and he certainly has plenty of that, but it seems like when PJ Walker is operating at his best, the best you would say about him is that he's not bad. Like, oh, he's actually hitting his open receivers and getting guys in stride. That's the best you can say about PJ Walker. At times, at his best, he is definitely maybe a little bit above serviceable. I thought Stefanski, for the most part, did coach up a pretty good game, especially considering that the Browns went down 14-0 really early. The team could have checked out after that, but the Browns stayed engaged, and the offense did move the ball quite a bit. But I do think that call to throw it, that would have been questionable even if you had a healthy and good Deshaun Watson under center, let alone PJ Walker, who I just said, at his best, he's not bad. And the running game, especially, it was moving pretty well on that drive. I know some people said, well, it's a 3rd and 3, and you're trying to run the clock out. They're going to expect a run. I think Seattle should have been expecting a run for the majority of that drive, and the Browns were still getting some pretty good run gains there. And if you do get stuff on the 3rd and 3, you can just punt it so that the other team doesn't start a potentially game tying or game winning drive, as was the case in this one. So that drive doesn't start at their own 40. Maybe they have to drive the entire field instead of just for 20 yards. But I know give credit to Seattle where it's due. They did make that final drive that Geno Smith had to make the throws, and he made the throws that he needed to make. But just giving them that momentum of an interception and that shorter field, especially at that point in the game, just not ingredients to get a win when your running game was doing well. You do want to give your defense that punt and those yardage to work with, even though the Browns defense had been playing very well in the second half. No reason to give the Seattle offense even the chance for that kind of momentum gain. And that bad first quarter, that did put them in a hole that, again, while the Browns dug out of that hole, Seattle didn't really need to do much outside of that first quarter besides hope that they get a last-minute touchdown. If the Browns played in the first quarter like they played in the second and third and for most of the fourth, where the defense was steady and the offense was moving the ball somewhat efficiently, then maybe Seattle getting a touchdown in the final minute, it turned into a garbage time touchdown rather than a game-winning touchdown. But those mistakes early on in the first quarter, they come back to bite you when you're getting into crunch time. The defense held the Seattle pointless for the better part of 2.5 quarters, but the start and the end of the game, Seattle did enough damage to beat the Browns, and that's where it is. Especially disappointing because the Steelers lost. The Browns could have gained some ground in the AFC North, moved up a spot, but instead the Browns are still looking at 2 other teams above them in 3rd place. But that's going to do it for this video. Thank you for watching. If you didn't make it this far into it, leave a like and a subscribe if you enjoyed it and you'd like to see more like it. Let me know what you thought about this game down in the comments and what the Browns might do from here. Again, you can let me know that down in the comments below. Once again, thank you for watching, and I will see you at the next one.